Scott-Simpson.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. As Chairman of the Justice and Electoral Select Committee, it's a pleasure to speak during this committee stage on this bill. The previous member, Dennis O'Rourke, made, I thought, some very valid points in relation to the changes. But first, may I just speak for a moment or two on the contribution of the Honourable Marion Street, who, whilst indicating that Labor will support this legislation, indicated in her speech that this was by some way a small little step of just not such significance that it would need to be anything other than a minor piece of legislation. Well, I take exactly the opposite view. I think this is a comprehensive and innovative step that the Minister has brought to the House, and in terms of the purpose of this bill, which is to change the law relating to the victims of crime and to give victims a much greater voice in our criminal justice system, this is an important and very significant step in our justice system. And so we know that this is an omnibus bill, and it amends the Victims' Rights Act of 2002, the Children and Young Persons and Their Families Act of 1989, the Parole Act of 2002 and the Sentencing Act of 2002 as well. And so, as a government, sir, we on this side are absolutely unapologetic about putting victims first in our judicial system. And it's partly because the victims are not there in any way other than as an innocent participant. They don't get involved in our judicial system by dint of wanting to be there. They are the innocent victims. And so I think it's right and proper, sir, that as we consider the committee stages of this bill, that we do keep a very clear sense of focus on the rights of victims. Sir, I want to turn just for a moment to the provisions in the bill that relate to the information that is to be contained in the impact statements. Now, the bill provides that information ascertained from a victim in a victim impact statement may include photographs, drawing or visual representations. Now, that's a new step, and something that I think is quite important. It's particularly of use where there are young victims who may want to not have a process where a formal document is written out, but they may want to prepare a picture or a drawing or a diagram that is representative of the impact that the crime for which they are a victim has and how it's impacted on them, their families and their loved ones. And so I think that's an appropriate step. What it means is that it will enable the victim to provide information to the court about the effects of the offending as relates particularly to them. And of course it's going to assist the court in understanding the victim's views about the actual offending. Further, it will go to informing the offender, who is actually the root cause of the proceedings in the first place, about the impact of the offending from the victim's perspective. And too often that victim's perspective, sir, is not well founded in our judicial system, and it's something that has over past years sometimes been lost. So this change is, I think, an important one. The bill further provides for the procedure relating to how a victim impact statement must be submitted. And so there are a couple of important changes that are featured in the new section 17AB. They include that a victim impact statement may be read to the court if, upon the request of the judicial officer sentencing the offender, agrees. Now, in some cases, victims are too emotionally distraught and overcome to be able to actually stand before a court, which in many cases can be an intimidating process in its own right, and then have to read out the actual statement. So this provision that allows for, in certain circumstances, the statement to be read by somebody else, I think is a significant and useful step forward. The statement may actually be read by the prosecutor or the victim or the person nominated by the victim. So the victim can actually choose, if you will, to have a voice other than themselves right in the courtroom. And I think that will be a powerful vehicle for sending messages not only to the offender but to others who are involved in the court process. Sir, the legislation is good and I support it.
The Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Chairman, the Labor Party will of course